Welcome to Breaking the Couch, a weekly conversation demystifying what happens in and behind the therapy scene to support your healing journey. We're your hosts.
I'm Dr. Doughton, a licensed clinical professional counselor, a certified school psychologist, and a trauma specialist with Playfully Psyched.
And I'm Dr. Jo Harchi with Soft Heart Psychology, a licensed clinical psychologist.
We're here aiming to provide you with mental health tools to address the cycle of generational trauma across the age span, from infancy and childhood to adulthood.
For more information, visit our Instagram page at Breaking the Couch or our website, breakingthecouch.com. While we hope you love listening to and learning from our podcast, it's not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
So I did a fun little thing and I looked at our calendar, right? And I wanted to see, what's coming up. And when this podcast episode comes out, it's going to be the month of June. So I thought that we can kind of talk a little bit about Family Health and Fitness Day, I believe it is. I think our podcast will come out a little bit after that, but I was just looking at it and I was just thinking, well, how many families think about mental health when they hear Family Health and Fitness Day? What do you think about that?
I think that is a great point. How many people think of that, right? We are not thinking about kind of getting together and talking about our communication or our stress levels or our coping. We're seeing jump ropes or right.
Exactly. I laugh because we're not getting together talking about our communication. Ha! More people talked about their communication. If they communicated about their communication, oh my gosh, I think so many problems could be resolved.
We wouldn't have jobs.
That's true.
Right.
So we absolutely, I think when I think the average person thinks about health, they are thinking about the physical stuff you were talking about, jumping rope, maybe eating healthy, we're going to make sure on this day we have whatever we think are balanced meals, or maybe eat together as a family and that sort of thing, because the food that we're eating is important. But most people aren't talking about the nuances of, okay, health and mental health are synonymous, they're related to one another, and we can actually spend this day focusing on highlighting the things that we can do for our mental health to support social emotional development of our family and within our children, people in our families. So I think it would be really cool if people could start to make that connection for health and mental health, And I have lots of ideas about what that could look like. Even from, I'm always talking about grounding strategies. We've talked about it here too.
The
But
butterfly hug, you've got all the different grounding strategies, the ice.
Exactly. And so I'm always trying to also tell people, even though a lot of times on social media, I'm teaching that to adults because that's who's going to have access to my platform most of the time.
Right.
Although there's some teenagers that follow me. It's like you can also do this with your children or the children in your life, your students, people in your family, and model that for them, right? And so I was actually just talking with someone the other day about an app. This is not a product placement, but this is about an app
Go ahead.
that I think I don't know if it's still around, but it was called the Butterfly app. And so it was a breathing app. Oh, the breathing butterfly. That's what it was. It was the breathing butterfly. And it basically, you could color in the butterfly on your phone or your tablet. And then when you hit play, the butterfly would spread its wings. And that was what the child would then inhale, right?
Oh,
And
I love
then
that.
exhale, and then butterfly would flap its wings again. And so it was creating that visual in a playful manner. And then the child had helped create, color the butterfly. And I was talking with a parent about that, and they have a young child that's kind of struggling with some things emotionally. And she was just kind of like, I never even thought about all the strategies that I have that oh, right, I might not need to be in therapy if I had some of these strategies, earlier, or at least maybe not as long as I've been in, or all those things. And so I think helping people realize that these are things that can be embedded in your daily life, and then modeled for the children in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that so much. And I like that you also said something along the lines of, children in our lives. Because for folks with a, you know, um, unique compilation of a family, right? So that is absolutely their family. And they may not see that child for, but once a month or
Mhm.
whatever. So there are so many ways that we can be generative and we can share health and the way that that shows up in the family that we have, right? So
Mhm.
I really like that. That's very kind of like big in its
Mhm.
understanding. Yeah, and
Exactly.
it's making me think also kind of like about some of our therapy experiences with people and folks. And I know that you work with, like, for example, really young children
Mhm.
and like 0 to 5
Mhm.
and with their families and kind of around that dynamic, and it's
Mhm.
making me think about some of my own work with, like, I'm thinking of a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, really little ones. I know
Mhm.
exactly who I'm
Mhm.
thinking of probably because we've
Mhm.
done
Mhm.
trauma consultation around this, and I'm thinking about how fruitful it was and how incredible it was to see multiple generations in the same room doing some of that work.
Mhm.
Um and how it was, like, so much more impactful, I think, than just working with the little one alone or just working with one of their parents or caregivers, right? So, I'm thinking of, like, for example, when I was being led in play with this, um we'll say 3-year-old, from a
Mhm.
biracial family, and we were working on the ways that their parents have 2 different sort of understandings of support and coping, and to bring everybody in the room at the same time around that,
Mhm.
um I hadn't seen the child so happy, right? Like, it was
Mhm.
such a special and happy moment for the child to be seen and to, like, lead play for all of us at that point.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
all joined in and we did what they said. And, yeah, that's just one small special example, I guess, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's such a great example. One of the things that you said was that you think it maybe had a more impactful, more beneficial impact to the child to have their family in the room. And I want to just put out my statement, a definitive statement that's a part of my belief, but also from what
Mhm.
I've seen, right? That having a child generalize their skills when they're working one on one with a therapist and that child is really young is almost never effective, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I this is where I struggle with therapists sometimes, like, it's wonderful the work that we do. We are very important when we aren't valued enough, okay? I understand that. And still, we're only with that child for 1 hour a week if we're lucky, and it's not actually a real
Mhm.
hour to therapy hour usually, so it's 45 to 50,
Right.
right? And so, how big do our egos have to be to
Mm.
believe that 1 hour with just us, so they're not gonna see at any other points in their day and their lives, um, is gonna be enough for them to understand how to use those skills out into the world?
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Mhm.
with a young child and their family, whoever comes with them, then you're having touch points because the idea is that you're also giving some of that therapeutic value, some of those therapy skills to their parents, right? And so the healing is happening doubly so or twice as much in the session. And then the parent is maybe taking away some of those skills because they're going to have a better likelihood of being able to generalize,
Mhm.
right? Because they're older, their brain has more developed, all those things. And so we're not putting all the pressure on this little child to be like, okay, you've learned what
Mhm.
we've done all these things, you've had your healing moments, we've done your child-led play. Okay, now go out and do it in the world all by yourself and do it. Like, no. And then we wonder why they come back to us and they're like, like nothing ever happened, right? Because it wasn't enough. And what we've learned is that, with any type of intervention that has a healing effect for therapy, it's actually not the length of one single session. Have we talked about this? No, it's the touch points. So, like, there were some studies for children who've experienced significant trauma. I think it was Peter Levine who I went to one of his conferences and learned about this. Um, Anyway, they've done some studies where they saw that when children could even get like 15 minutes of therapeutic play with a therapist, these are some of these like intense
Hmm.
programs, had more of an impact if they got 15 minutes every day, had like a bigger impact, or at least the same impact as it's that 1 hour a week, um, because it is about like just points of contact, repetition, and lots of points of contact, right? Versus this hour that we think in the
Hmm.
basically like the capitalist framework, if we're going to be honest, right? Like charging a person for their time and all that stuff. That's an adult model that's not based on healing.
No, that's really interesting. I haven't heard that. That makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense.
Mhm. That's your touch point. So no, yeah, I think that it's really important when parents and children can be in that on that journey together, and so important that it doesn't have to be this like scary thing. I think that in this day and age we're trying to normalize mental health and destigmatize it, and one of the ways that we can do that is by showing children how mental health shows up in their life, right? Because mental health doesn't mean you're unhealthy, right? We do checkups. Health isn't a bad word. Mental health shouldn't be either. Like, right?
Right. Right.
Oh my goodness. You look like you wanted to say something and I kept talking.
Nope, you're perfect. No, so what I was thinking was kind of about what you were talking about, and I was thinking about with this family, of course, as always in our podcast, we're using like kind of compilation of stories, right? So we're not uh, revealing anyone's secrets, stories, therapy reveals.
Mhm.
So with that story, I was thinking a little bit about how those two caregivers in that child's life were so dedicated and like uh it it's it was they were so interested, invested, motivated. Like I can't say enough about how they were all about, hey, therapists, come in here, help out, let's all work
Mhm.
together, right?
Mhm.
Now, on the flip side, now what I'm thinking is there are some families, like I'm thinking about some of the young folks who I work with who are getting like gender affirming surgeries or something, right?
Mhm.
And their parent may not be like that at all, or their caregiver may not be like that at all. And I'm thinking of like, how do we get some of those folks in the room? Because that's what I really want to do.
Mhm.
It's like when I'm working with a teen, and what I really want is some of that multiple generation healing. And so, what I do in those cases where I can't get, you know, dad in the room or something, I will say, is there a Tia, or is there a family member? Is there like a adjacent caregiver who would be willing to be part of your team? And in that way of like opening things up, sometimes we can expand family. Um, or is it like a really close friend, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, family health. And again, going back to your idea of like the bigness of family.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, when you were like, how to teens, I was like, I don't know. But then
Mhm,
I
mhm,
kept listening to what you were saying, and you're talking about the family structure of it. Absolutely, right? Because what I'm hearing you talk about is the support network. Um,
mhm,
and kind of what I always say, that family is about those who love and support you. In my definition, family isn't just who's related to you, those are relatives,
mhm.
right? And so in situations where a teenager has relatives that may not be supportive, then trying to see who's a part of their family that can be on that journey with them is going to be really important. Absolutely.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And we know that for many communities, I know that like San Francisco State did some research around uh, what happens when we don't support young folks around like coming out, being who they are, and that trajectory is a lot more concerning health wise. Like we're talking about suicide, suicidal thoughts, substance abuse, and then the flip side of that, of course, when we are welcoming and when we do use their pronouns and when we do welcome their friends and their queer, partners, and we don't ask them to hide at family events, right? When we do that,
Mhm.
suicidal thoughts go down, suicide attempts go down, substance abuse goes down. So there's a lot of I know you and I are careful to use the words resiliency around trauma, but there is a lot of resiliency and like I guess hope would be a better word for it. A lot of hope when we do kind of bring in that family health perspective when it comes
Mhm.
to some of those teens that we're working with.
Mhm. We've done a few episodes now, so I can't remember. Have we talked about why we don't like, especially why I don't like the word resiliency around
I don't
trauma?
know that we have. That's a good question. I know you and I have like offline, right? But
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
not sure that we've shared that with our listeners.
So I think we probably should.
They might want to know. They
Yeah.
might already know.
We
Yeah.
might already know, we might have
Yeah.
said it, but I think it'd be good. I mean, so from my perspective, how I look at resiliency, or the word resilience, it really frustrates me
Mhm.
because it puts the onus responsibility on the survivor,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And almost dismisses everything that they've been through. And so I first started thinking about this, I don't know, probably as I was getting out of adolescence myself, like going into early adulthood, so like starting college, and just hearing about, because that's when I started learning about child abuse. I was super focused. I don't know if you knew this, but in all of my undergraduate studies and papers and stuff was always on child abuse. Um, that was my focus, and then sexual abuse was the subset of that I focused on a lot. So that's where all my focus was. Anyway, and then there's language about resiliency, like, oh, but children are resilient and they can bounce back from things. And it wasn't in so much in the research, but in so much of the like anecdotal stuff that you come across. And it just felt like, so we're just gonna pass over all these horrible things and just say, oh, but they turned out okay. Right. And then I learned about ACEs, so Adverse Childhood Experiences, the ACE study that was what, 1988, 1988, 98, 1998, I think. One of the two. We'll look it up.
Sounds good to me. I cannot
Yeah,
remember,
we
but
can
that
put the
sounds about
link.
right. Mhm.
We can put the link in the show notes. But learning about actually what happens when children experience traumatic events or adverse childhood events when they grow up, we see all of these health and mental health
Mhm.
uh,
That's right.
outcomes that are so
Mhm.
concerning. And I'm like, resilience is not the thing we should be focusing on. Not like, oh, how do we help you? How do you just have this natural ability to bounce back, right? Because resilient,
Repression.
right? Because
Yeah.
resilience also like typically suggests that there's no intervention, there's no support, there's no help. It's just like, oh, it's
Mm.
innate, it's in you. Like, oh, you're resilient. Oh, you're strong. You can handle that. It's okay. Children will forget. They won't remember that anyway. Body keeps a score. Body keeps a score. The body will remember. You'll have a felt sense of knowing. Even if you don't know, you'll feel it.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. Do you have something you want to add to resilience? That's my little soapbox ramble on it.
I don't have much to add because that was thorough. I really agree with you, as you know. I think I get it. I get why we, as people, want to believe that these horrible things that happen to people can so easily just be repressed or just so easily be recovered from. And like, I get it. That sounds nice. It sounds really nice. And just like if I'm watching a game, right, and the player falls and he pulls his hamstring or she pulls her, they pull their hamstring, right? You're like
Mhm.
that face exactly. You're like, oh, ouch, right?
Yeah. My
Just
recent
like
hamstring injury.
yes, just like
Well,
that. People say, oh, just get up, like you'll be fine. Like, no, like please don't play with that broken finger again. No,
exactly.
like maybe you'll play with it today, but like 10 years from now, your finger's gonna be all bent and weird.
When it doesn't heal straight like it was supposed
Yes.
to, when you can't fully extend your leg because
Yeah.
you didn't finish your PT or something, it's like,
Yeah. Or we know that, folks where they don't have nerve, like they don't have feeling in some part because they just did that whole thing. So it's like the same thing mental health wise. Like,
mhm.
yeah, sure. But we're not like, I mean, we're not just going to grow a tail back, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that because I've been trying to use, we did this in our ruptures and repairs, maybe in the description, I started using the word injuries, and we might have talked about it in the word injuries. Because if we're going to help people understand that mental health and health are related, right, then I think that we do need to use some of the language that people are familiar with from the health category, right? And so if you have a mental injury, right, you would expect some type of, a mental intervention, some type of help or support, some type of Band-Aid, ace bandage, something, right? And if you frame it that way, then whether it's, therapy with a licensed professional, whether that's going through your own journey, journaling, grounding strategies, whatever you can do on your own, support from your family and friends, people that care about you, you're going to need some kind of intervention to help that healing process. It's not going to just go away on its own. That's all I'm saying.
And I love that. And I think it ties back so nicely with the idea of, yeah, let's absolutely talk about as a family, whatever that looks like for you. Let's get our water in, let's get our rest. Let's, get a little more movement if that's what feels right. All those things. And this component of mind body connection
Mhm.
just slips in there perfectly and they all go together really nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah, so families can start to think about how they can talk about communication,
Mhm.
how they can really model for one another when they're feeling stressed out and what they do to resolve that. Hopefully, finding healthy ways and mentally healthy ways to do that. And then in trying to engage in that as a unit. And understanding that even though there are many of us who need and love our alone time, right? Humans are social creatures, and we need some type of point of connection with a caring, supportive person. And so families can be a really great opportunity for people to get those connecting points to help their mental health journey,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so happy we could come together and talk about this. Was there kinda anything else that we wanted to touch on for this topic?
No, I think we've kind of covered some of the basics. I'm sure we'll be able to talk more, but I think the basics, basically the takeaway is Family Health and Fitness Day. Make sure you do something for your mental health, family mental health as well. So yeah, I think that's our major takeaway. And just a reminder to listeners that they can send us a voicemail. They can go to the website to leave a message, to give topic ideas, quotes, questions, whatever. What else? So also we're on Instagram and you guys can tag us in your stories. So if you do an Instagram story that's inspired by a topic that
Mhm.
we've had on the podcast, please tag us and we'll reshare it. Be a part of the community. We're really excited about that because we're all over social media. So
Looking
that was
forward
all
to
I wanted to add.
connecting. Yes,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
connect. Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Bye, Dr. Darachi.
Bye, Dr. Dutton. If you are looking for a therapist for yourself or your child, you can visit our websites, playfullypsych.com or softheartpsychology.com.
We appreciate you joining us this week and can't wait till there's another opportunity to jump on the couch with you next week.